Isaiah almost signed the postcard offer on a Tuesday afternoon, at his kitchen table, with a pen already in his hand, until a woman he barely knew asked him one question that stopped him completely. It started 3 generations earlier, in a year Isaiah couldn't have told you without checking. 1961. A woman named Odessa, 28 years old, working 6 days a week cleaning other people's houses, walked into a bank downtown and asked for a mortgage. They said no. She walked to a second bank. They said no as well, though more politely. What she did not know then was that a no from those banks was never really about her. It was about the neighborhood, and the red lines drawn around it long before she was born. She only knew what it felt like, being told twice that her money was not good enough to be trusted with a loan. She found a third place, a small savings and loan, black-owned, 3 blocks from the church she attended. They said yes, $9,000 for a narrow 2-bedroom house with a porch that leaned slightly to the left. Odessa never once called it an investment. She called it, plainly, somewhere nobody can put us out of. Her son Franklin grew up in that house and never left it. When Odessa passed in 1994, the house passed to him. He paid off what remained of the mortgage within a few years, and after that, he simply lived there. He never refinanced it, never borrowed against it, never once thought of the walls around him as anything other than a roof that was already paid for. To Franklin, the house was safety. It had never once occurred to him that it could also be capital. Nobody had ever sat him down and explained the difference, and it is hard to use a tool nobody has shown you that you are holding. He raised his son, Isaiah, in that same house, on that same leaning porch, and passed it to him the way it was passed to him, quietly, without paperwork explained, without a single conversation about what it actually meant to own something outright. Isaiah was 29 when his father died. 3 weeks after the funeral, before the grief had even settled into something he could carry normally, a postcard arrived, bold letters, a phone number. We buy houses, any condition, cash in 7 days. He did not know what the house was worth. He did not know what a title search was, or why anyone would want one before buying property outright. He only knew that 7 days sounded easier than however long everything else was going to take, and that the number on the postcard was more cash than he had ever held at once. He called it. A man came out, walked through the house in 20 minutes, and offered him $61,000. Isaiah sat down at the kitchen table that Tuesday with the offer in front of him and a pen already uncapped. He thought about his father and how tired he had always looked. He thought about how much simpler this would make everything, starting tomorrow. He sat there a long moment, pen in hand, not moving, the weight of the whole decision pressing down without him fully understanding why it felt so heavy. Then his phone rang. A woman named Renata, his mother's old co-worker, someone who did title work downtown, and had heard through the same small network that hears everything that the house was being sold. She did not lecture him. She asked one question. Has anyone actually told you what that house is worth on the open market? Isaiah said no. Renata said she could find out free by that Friday. The old voice came back that night while he waited. Loud, clear. It said, "Just take the cash. You don't understand any of this anyway. You never will. People like you don't end up owning anything for long regardless." He sat with that for a while. Then he did not sign anything. He waited for Friday instead. The number came back at $210,000. Renata sat across from him at the same kitchen table and instead of explaining it to him in one long speech, she pulled out a folded piece of paper from an old metal box he hadn't opened in years. The original 1961 deed, Odessa's signature still on it, faint but legible. "This is what she fought for," Renata said. "Twice told no, once told yes. You almost gave it away for a quarter of what it's worth to a stranger with a postcard." Isaiah held the deed for a long time. He did not say much. He did not need to. The house is still his. It took him the better part of a year to understand what he actually owned, what refinancing meant, what equity meant, what his grandmother's stubbornness in 1961 had actually purchased for a family she would never live to see grown. He is not wealthy, not yet, but he understands, finally, what was placed in his hands and what it would have cost to lose it to a signature made in a hurry at a kitchen table on an ordinary Tuesday. Here is what 3 generations of one family's ordinary decisions reveal. An inheritance does not stay safe just because it survived one generation. It has to be understood, or it can disappear in a single signature. No less real a loss than if it had never existed at all. If somebody in your family fought for something you have never fully understood, you still have time to learn what it is. There are more stories like this one here. Subscribe.